All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the second part of this episode. Sorry for the technical problems. We're just waiting on Bobby now to make his ruling and make any comments he has to make.
Yeah, you gave me a little more time to think on one of the harder judgments here, because really, and I know you have to put a rule in it, but Johnny's twist really did hinder his because I really loved his pitch. But the problem is, I don't know if I would be interested at all in an animated version of the movie the way that Joe pitched it. So I think even though Johnny lost the rule, I think he won the cast and the plot because of the social importance of what it would do. And it would at least be a talking point in a relevant movie today, whereas I feel like the animated version would kind of be glossed over. So I'm going to give that to Johnny, and that kind of puts Joe in a tough spot here.
Yeah, Johnny's got a 4-2 lead. So it makes it my choice again, and I think I know where I'm going to go. And I'm going to go with the movie that was hardest for me to do, and I'm hoping it was the hardest for Johnny to do because the movie's so good. And I'm going to go with 2011's Warrior.
All right, this could go either way. Are you going first or am I going first?
Yeah, I'll go first. So Warrior is directed by Gavin O'Connor, I believe. Stars Joel Edgerton as a high school science teacher, former UFC fighter. And it's Tom Hardy, who was like a college and high school wrestling superstar who is destined for greatness, but he decides to join the army instead. Joel Edgerton is losing his house, and he decides to go back to fighting against his wife's wishes, and he's going to enter this big Spartan tournament, a tournament designed to find like the greatest fighter in the world. And with the prize money, he hopes to get enough money to pay for his house. And then Tom Hardy, the wrestling superstar, goes to this gym and just knocks like the top fighter out in a sparring session. And there's a video of it. It goes viral. And because of that, he gets an invitation to the Spartan tournament. And it turns out these two guys are brothers. Their dad is an alcoholic, played by Nick Nolte, and he just yells about Moby Dick throughout the whole movie. And of course, the movie ends with a tournament of the two brothers facing off against each other. One is like a knockout artist who's been winning his fights in like 10 seconds. The other is a submission technical fighter who submits his opponents. And it ends with Joel Edgerton submitting his brother who has a broken arm, and he gets enough money to pay for his house. Does anyone else have anything to add?
It's a great movie.
Yeah,
see it.
One of my favorites the last 10 years. Yeah. I love it.
All right. So my director for my rebooted version is, I have two directors, Tyler Nilson and Michael Schwartz, who were the writer-director of Peanut Butter Falcon. My Brendan, who was originally played by Joel Edgerton, is now played by Daveed Diggs, who is the star of Blind Spotting, and he was in Hamilton. My Tommy,
great, by the way, if you guys haven't seen it.
Yeah. Hamilton or Blind Spotting?
Well, both.
Hamilton or Blind Spotting?
Both, but I did just watch Hamilton, and Daveed Diggs is one of the best parts of it, and it actually is a really good musical.
I haven't seen it. I've only seen Blind Spotting, and then Tommy, who was originally played by Tom Hardy, is now played by Henry Cavill, who is basically the new Superman. Well, I guess since 2013 Superman. And my Patty Conlon, originally played by Nick Nolte, is now played by Ron Perlman, who was Hellboy, and he was in Sons of Anarchy. My Frank Campana, who was originally Frank Grillo, is now John Leguizamo, who is in John Wick. He was the voice of Sid in Ice Age. He was Luigi in Super Mario Brothers. And my Tess, who is Brendan's wife, is now played by Tessa Thompson of Creed and Thor Ragnarok fame. And so basically mine's very similar to the first one. He's still a UFC, Brendan's still a UFC fighter, a current science teacher. Tommy's still a military vet, high school wrestling, all that. However, my version, they're not revealed, they're brothers until they both get to Atlantic City, where the major fight happens. So you basically both people's individual stories, and you don't see how they're connected until about halfway through or 2/3 of the way through the movie. We find out that Patty Conlon slept with Brendan's mom, but didn't stay to raise the kid, but built a life with Tommy's mom. And so they're not full brothers, but they are half brothers, which explains why one is Daveed Diggs and one is Henry Cavill, who don't necessarily look like full blood brothers. And that's partially why I changed the race of Brendan, is to like hide that surprise more.
The Spider-Man Homecoming reveal.
And it
basically, I forgot about that.
And it basically builds their animosity towards each other, is because Patty Conlon's like a drunk, is like Brendan hates Tommy because Tommy had a dad that Brendan didn't have, and Tommy hates Brendan because he wasn't forced to live with like a shitty alcoholic dad. And then the other major change I'm making is I'm keeping the same level of comedy, because there was quite a bit of comedy in the first one, but I'm changing the source of the comedy. In the original, the high school students and the principal were the main source of comedy. In my version, we will have more comedy from Brendan's gym, mainly from a plucky guy trying to make it in fighting and his quiet best friend. That's right, Jay and Silent Bob are in my version. Before the final fight, Brendan is unsure what to do about Tommy, and in classic Silent Bob fashion, he gives a great speech. He talks to him about brotherhood. He talks about how sometimes in life you get to choose your brother, like he and Jay chose each other, but sometimes you don't, but that person is still your brother. The movie ends with Brendan causing Tommy to tap and winning the money he needs to pay for his house. And that is my pitch for Jay and Silent Bob in my version of Warrior.
That is good.
All right. I'm going to try to really sell this one, all right? So I thought, what's the only way to make Warrior more interesting? That's right. Make it a Tim Burton movie. So,
all right.
All right. And I basically got rid of the entire plot, and we're going to go with this pitch. Any remake of Warrior would straight up suck without making it crazy. So this entire movie is a Tim Burton directed movie of a UFC tournament where all of his famous characters fight in a UFC ring. So the contestants are Johnny Depp as Edward Scissorhands, a CGI Martian from Mars Attacks, Tim Roth from Planet of the Apes, Danny DeVito as the Penguin, Paul Rubens as Pee Wee Herman, and Michael Keaton as Beetlejuice. The entire movie is just a tournament of fights to the death, but UFC style, and the victor is Beetlejuice, but then he's disqualified because he is already dead. So that's my whole movie. It's just a Tim Burton movie where his characters fight each other like, I don't know, what's that, like Clay Fighter show? It's basically that.
Yeah, the celebrity one.
Celebrity Deathmatch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be that, but a Tim Burton movie with his characters. And we're going to call it a remake of Warrior.
Well. Yeah. So, that's something. So
we appreciate the attempt.
Right.
If you couldn't tell, I got down to the wire and did not know what to do for either of those things. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go balls out for my Tim Burton Warrior.
If you actually had a pitch for the movie that was similar to Warrior, I might have been interested in that. But
yeah,
that's just not Warrior.
Oh, 100%. But there's no way there's no reason to remake Warrior. It's tough to repeat. No, so I'm just like, you know what? I'm just going to take the only idea from Warrior is my movie is a UFC tournament. Yeah, and we're just going to have these people murder each other.
I will say, though, I love Warrior. I love Warrior. It's one of my favorite movies the last 10 years, like I said. But what it does not have, that a lot of sports movies do have, is a great
Jay and Silent Bob.
Is a great inspiring speech. Like Miracle and Any Given Sunday. So I think that's actually brilliant to put Jay and Silent Bob.
I disagree. It's just shorter. Yeah. I would say the Frank Campana speech of if you don't knock him out, you lose your house.
That is
it's like not a big speech, but that's the speech.
It's a more realistic one. But yeah, you kind of introduced Silent Bob to do like the Miracle speech, which I liked. I knew I was going to lose as soon as you were doing your pitch, and I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to go do mine. But I liked Joe's pitch. I can't even fight against it.
Again, like I said, I did just watch Hamilton, and I've been kind of obsessed with it. And Daveed Diggs is one of my favorite parts. I mean, Blind Spotting's great too, but him as especially Thomas Jefferson in the second half is fantastic. So, along with just the fact that Johnny kind of forced that just a little bit, I'm giving that one to Joe.
How dare you?
All right.
I took a lot of time on that one. And I just watched Daveed Diggs in Velvet Buzzsaw, which was not great. I just watched that last night for some reason.
I've never heard of it. But he's
Yeah,
good.
this is the one I was texting you guys where I was like, I have one, and like the rule I have like didn't really change the movie, so I had to add another rule. I'm basically like, okay, what if they didn't realize they were, or like didn't talk about them being brothers, or we didn't know they were brothers until later in the movie? Because like just adding Jay and Silent Bob, I'm like, it's still basically Warrior, and I could still bring back Tom Hardy and Joel Edgerton.
That was another good way to kind of, it's like you added a twist without adding a twist, because it's the same one as the movie. You just kind of revealed it later on. And I did really like that for sure.
I feel like that's, if Warrior has a flaw, like I understand your whole speech thing, but I would say if I could improve on Warrior, it'd be the audience not knowing they're brothers until later in the movie. Like they put that in the trailer that they're brothers.
Yeah, no, the speech thing was mostly a joke, but I do love a good speech in a sports movie. But that was probably the best idea you had in there, was to reveal that late.
Yeah. All right, John.
All right. So what's the score now?
I think it's 4-3 you.
Okay, so we have 3 left. We have Daredevil, we have Super Mario Bros, and we have Wild Wild West. So I have a tough decision to make. You know what? We'll just get into it. I'm going to go to Super Mario Bros because I just really want to hear Joe's pitch.
All right. So is someone going to explain this? Because I don't really remember the original.
Okay, so there's no reason anyone should know this movie, but the original Super Mario Bros. Is nothing like the game. It's 2 plumbers that are not even brothers in the original movie. They're just like orphans. It's Mario, and Luigi Mario. Very dumb movie. Bob Hoskins is kind of funny as Mario, but it's just like this wild dystopian future that hates plumbers. And then they have to save the princess from not even Bowser. It's King Koopa, who is just like a wild, maniacal dictator of this crazy world. Oh, and everyone is evolved from dinosaurs. So they have a machine that devolves people.
Don't forget, by the way, that there's a parallel universe in this movie that was created when the dinosaurs were killed by the asteroid. So one universe is the usual humans, and one is where the dinosaurs and King Koopa live. It's a weird, bizarre movie, and I don't know why I remember that, but yeah, that's an interesting factoid that I've seen this movie and did not know that. Yeah, it's bizarre.
But the dinosaurs have like Brooklyn accents, so yeah, it's a very weird one, and I scrapped a lot of that plot. So I'm gonna get into my pitch. I'm gonna go first on mine. So you know what I thought? Because you two psychos thought Con Air was a great cast of grown-ups movie, I thought who better to be the Super Mario Brothers than Adam Sandler and David Spade. So my movie, I'm going to get into my cast. Mario is played by Adam Sandler, like I said, and Luigi is David Spade. Donkey Kong is going to be Kevin James. Oh, no CGI. It's all live action. So he's just going to have a bunch of hair on him. Toad is going to be Rob Schneider. He's just going to have like a mushroom head. Yoshi, again, paint him green, make him a dinosaur. That's Chris Rock. King Koopa is Steve Buscemi. Bowser, another great, not from Grown Ups, but Adam Sandler movie guy. John Lovitz. I need a good bad guy. He's like a maniacal dude. And he was in The Wedding Singer, Rat Race. Princess Peach is Mario Bello, and Princess Daisy is Selma Hayek. My director is Dennis Duggan, who did Grown Ups and Happy Gilmore. And this is my pitch. Adam Sandler and his buddies are on vacation, and they find a giant green warp pipe in the woods. They decide to leave it alone, but it sucks them in, where they become the characters of Super Mario. The heroes realize the only way to get back to their reality is that they must stop Bowser and the evil dictator King Koopa and rescue the princesses. That's the movie. That's Adam Sandler's Mario. So they get sucked in, kind of like Jumanji, new Jumanji style, Space Jam style, and they become the characters in this crazy world, and they're dinosaurs. But Kevin James is just like in a gorilla costume because I feel like that'd be funny. And same with Chris Rock as Yoshi, just like bad costumes. And I pictured Mario. It's not like the real Mario suit. It's like a Halloween version costume where it's like that fake big mustache and like the big Mario hat. That's how everyone is going to look in this movie.
I like that pitch actually, because there's really nothing good you can do with that original movie. So you know what? I'll take it.
The only good thing you can do with Super Mario Brothers is animate it, but I wasn't going to make it an animal movie. So
I mean, but he becomes an animal in Mario 3. Just put,
That's true, and Donkey Kong's in it.
Yeah.
All right, Joe, compete with that.
But you said there's nothing, you can do nothing with the original version. Well, you're about to be corrected. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. So, was the original set in like a dystopian future? I didn't remember that. But
yeah, it's like a dystopian world.
Oh, well, it's
where they hate
world.
plumbers.
Well, anyways, mine is set 100 years in the future. That's the twist I'm using for this.
It's the same, and it's a shot-for-shot remake.
No.
That would be perfect for this one.
My director is David Leitch of John Wick and Deadpool 2 fame.
Oh my
Mario is Peter Dinklage. My Luigi is Joe Manganiello of True Blood and Magic Mike. My Princess Daisy is Isa Gonzalez of Baby Driver and Hobbs and Shaw. And my King Koopa is Gary Oldman. In the year 2120, the world has fallen into chaos. Between multiple pandemics and rising climates, many world governments have fallen. The age of large multi-state nations has ended. Micronations ruled by kings and queens have taken over. Mario and Luigi, two bickering brothers and plumbers, are employed by the king and queen of their nation to maintain the plumbing of the palace. We see that Luigi and the king and queen's daughter, Princess Daisy, are friendly and flirtatious with each other. While the brothers are working and talking about how Princess Daisy would never fall for a plumber, King Koopa, the leader of a neighboring nation, storms the castle with his army. They kill the king, the queen, and anybody else they see. The only one they intentionally leave alive is Princess Daisy, who King Koopa kidnaps and wants as his bride. Mario and Luigi witness what happened but aren't seen. The two brothers go to the military and tell them what happened, but they are told that King Koopa is too powerful and that they must assume Princess Daisy is dead as well. Luigi tells Mario they have to help Daisy, and Mario agrees. The two plumbers head toward King Koopa's nation, Dino Hatton. On the way, we learn the dinosaur and lizard-obsessed King Koopa has spent his reign running genetic experiments. Mario and Luigi also see multiple announcements that Koopa and Daisy's wedding is tomorrow night. They don't have enough time until someone they meet gives them two Yoshis that escaped from Dino Hatton. Mario and Luigi ride the Yoshis to Dino Hatton. Once they get to the border, they are stopped by the guards. The two of them realize the only way in is the way they know best, the pipes. Luigi discovers that he doesn't fit, but Mario can't fight the guards. We get a scene of Mario entering a large green pipe sticking out of the ground. Then there's a simultaneous above ground and underground shot as Mario is running and jumping around the plumbing of Dino Hatton, and Luigi and the two Yoshis are fighting Koopa's army as an homage to the two-player game. The two brothers get to the palace. There they reach the throne room during Koopa and Daisy's wedding. They are stopped by Koopa's guard/pet, a genetically modified turtle named Bowser. As Luigi fights and distracts Bowser, Mario gets to Daisy and rescues her. As an homage to Mario Kart, the three of them have to fight their way out of the palace and commandeer 3 carts as they drive out of Dino Hatton. Koopa's guards chase after them in carts as well. Chain Chomps attack them. Koopa's guards throw grenades shaped like turtle shells at them. Mario, Luigi, and Daisy get to safety. Daisy kisses Luigi. Mario makes a joke about needing to find someone. And I have a post-credit scene where Daisy approaches Mario and Luigi and says she needs their help because her cousin, Princess Peach, is in trouble. And that's my pitch for Super Mario Brothers.
Joe, you put more effort into that pitch than the real movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
But like all for naught, because what?
You have
In the
Adam
hell
Sandler and
are
Halloween
you
costume running
talking
around.
about?
No, that actually made sense to me.
Yeah, exactly. See, and like I feel like the only way to do a live action Mario is to just make it goofy. You made it into a John Wick movie, but with Peter Dinklage.
No, I made it into like Deadpool 2. It's more Deadpool 2
Yeah.
comedy than
That's
John
true.
Wick.
Right. Yeah, it sounded like it wasn't just straight up action. That's when you said David Leitch, I was worried you were going to say it was this R-rated.
No, it's more. It leans more like Deadpool 2 than.
minutes, and then Mario has to go, take revenge on Bowser or something.
Also, Super Mario takes place in like a fantastical world, so I feel like that's cheating to set that in 100 years in the future.
Yeah,
You didn't
'cause the
really
world could get
change
fantastical.
anything
We
about
don't
the
know.
world from the first movie.
Yeah.
Except you got rid of the dinosaur evolutions, I guess.
Yeah, it just took all the shittiness out of the first one and just kept the good stuff, which was very little, and then added more good stuff and things they couldn't do. Like there wasn't Mario Kart back then, so I'm like, oh, let's have an homage to Mario Kart.
Yeah, and I actually really like the ending of Peach being, they have to go save Peach at the end and all that, because you're ending the movie, but then you're setting up for the sequel, which is something that a lot of movies don't do. They do one or the other.
Yeah, so. Very bold of you to set that movie up.
Also, I mean, that's also there's also a post-credit scene in the original Super Mario Brothers. That's the same thing where Daisy shows up and she's like, "Hey, I need your help."
Okay.
Well, so mine I picture, so they're in costumes, but they're running around worlds that, instead of like the weird dystopian world like in that Mario movie, they go through the green warp pipe and it looks like the Mario levels. Like they're running through and it's like brick and green pipes and everything like that. Like, so they look weird, but the world is like Super Mario looking world. So at least you have like that, because the whole Dino Land, Dino Hatton stuff was never a part of Super Mario's, and it doesn't make any sense. And then they just threw that into the
Land is kind of a thing, but
that like they have some like dinosaurs and stuff, but not the way the movie did it.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
So with yours, Johnny, I actually really liked that was the Grown-Ups cast. And I thought just on simple premise, you kind of had it. My only worry was that it could become Pixels.
Oh, 100% it would be like Pixels.
Right. And Pixels, actually, the trailers for Pixels made me want to see that movie. And I couldn't get through more than a half an hour of it. It's brutal. It's really bad. So
mine would be like Pixels if it was made without taking itself seriously.
Yeah.
Like Pixels took itself as like these characters need to save the world. It should have just been like, we have crazy aliens that look like, Pac-Man attacking, and it's a comedy around it. That's what mine is. Like the characters, none of them take themselves seriously, but it's in the Mario realm.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think if I were going to rule it, so if we go on 3 things of cast, pitch, and, how well the rule was used, I think Johnny won the rule, and I think Joe won the other 2. I think I would actually kind of want to see that movie and see a Mario franchise based on that. I love Peter Dinklage. That's perfect. I think that's great, because then you can even have some things where, he gets the mushroom, gets bigger, kind of play a joke off that kind of deal. And
that's what the world needs.
My main thing is I wanted like
short people.
Mario,
but that's not. It's not you're not discriminating against him from it.
I just wanted like, because you have the big height discrepancy in the game, I wanted like Peter Dinklage and like 6'9" Joe Manganiello as brothers opposite each other. And I wanted someone who could carry the action too, where you have Joe Manganiello.
I honestly thought I was going to be put in a situation where I have to give Johnny another one and put him up, to where you have to tie it. But I think Joe took that for me.
All right, so it's 4-4.
All right, so we got 2 left. All right, we're gonna go. I kind of want to save Wild Wild West for last, so we're gonna go with the Daredevil. And I'll pitch first.
All right.
So, Daredevil, there was a great Netflix show, Daredevil, but that was way after this one. And Daredevil 2003 starred Ben Affleck, and what's her name, Jennifer Garner, his ex-wife. It was wild. You had basically Daredevil's whole thing in the comics is he doesn't kill people and he struggles with faith. And in this movie, he just like right off the bat throws a dude into a subway. But the movie is like his reflection on his life. It's him dying in a church almost, and then it's his life flashes before his eyes. And the movie has a lot of things with eyes because, he's blind. But in the movie, Michael Clark Duncan is Kingpin. He leads all the criminals, and he kills Daredevil, Matt Murdock's father. Matt Murdock grows up to be a superhero. He gets in a chemical explosion, or the truck crashes and he gets chemicals in his eyes. So he's a blind superhero, but he has enhanced everything else. All his other senses are enhanced. So he becomes Daredevil, and Bullseye comes in. He's got like a weird carving of a bullseye symbol on his forehead. He treats it like a nipple the whole movie. And then he kills Elektra. And then again, Daredevil murders him, and then goes and like breaks Kingpin's legs. And that's really all you need to know. If you haven't seen Daredevil, probably don't bother. But it is kind of a good,
It's fine.
like fun
Solid, like
watch. They have a fight scene
like a
on
6 out of
a.
10.
I was gonna say the best part of the movie. You didn't mention that you're about.
Yeah,
to
they have a fight scene on a swing set or a seesaw.
It's a
that is
seesaw.
jumping around. Very weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a.
Oh, and she doesn't know he's Daredevil after that, even though he's jumping on the seesaw.
While blind.
While blind, like a psycho.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll pitch mine first. So, my Daredevil is going to be someone I feel like is a good actor. He has the look for it, and he can do action, and that's going to be Toby Kebbell. He played Koba in Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, and he was in Kong Skull Island. He was in the shitty Fantastic Four movie, I believe. As
hey, don't forget
Dr.
about his
Doom.
best work
He was an
in
interesting
Hurricane
guy.
Heist.
Oh yeah, he's in that. That movie exists. I didn't even know he was in that. And then we're gonna go. Elektra is gonna be Sophia Boutella from Kingsman and Hotel Artemis. She has the look and she can do the action big time for Elektra. I really like her. My Kingpin is going to be Michael Clark Duncan. Is actually an amazing Kingpin in the first one, but I can't bring him back because he passed away. So Kingpin, I have Pedro Pascal. He is in Game of Thrones and he is the Mandalorian. I want someone more crime boss, so it's going to be Pedro Pascal. And this is my rule. My bullseye. We are resurrecting a career. We're going to go with someone who had a healthy career ahead of him. He was great in a couple small movies, showed he could act. And then he was cast in the Star Wars prequels and it ruined his career. Hayden Christensen is going to be my bullseye because I'm bringing him back from the dead. And then my Foggy Nelson is going to be Clark Duke. He was the main guy in like Hot Tub Time Machine in The Office with the glasses. He looks a lot like the comic Foggy. Jack Murdock, the father of Matt Murdock and Daredevil, is going to be played by Thomas Hayden Church from Sideways, and he was Sandman in Spider-Man 3. And my director, I like what Marvel does with a lot of their movies, which is take someone who's made smaller films, and if they can tell a story, we're going to give them a movie. So Lynn Ramsey, she directed We Need to Talk About Kevin, and a really good small movie, You Were Never Really Here, with Joaquin Phoenix, where he plays a hitman. She is very good at very dark tones, and there's nothing of like darker tones than Daredevil comics. So here's my full pitch. By the way, my Hayden Christensen is in the bullseye costume. He is wearing a mask with a bullseye on his forehead. He doesn't have it carved into his head like in the other movie. But anyway, Matt Murdock is a superhero by night, lawyer by day. A client he is set to defend is a henchman of Kingpin. Matt learns about Kingpin and decides he needs to be stopped. While investigating a suspect, Matt meets the woman of his dreams, Elektra, and falls in love. Meanwhile, Kingpin hires Bullseye to kill Elektra's father and frame Daredevil for it. Elektra blames Daredevil, and they have a fight before Bullseye comes in and kills Elektra and weakens Daredevil. Bullseye and Daredevil have an epic fight scene in a church with no weird slow-motion Matrix ripoffs. Daredevil defeats Bullseye, but because of his faith, decides not to kill him, even though he's about to stab him with a piece of broken glass from the stained glass windows. Instead, he rips off Bullseye's mask and uses the large piece of broken stained glass to carve the Bullseye into his forehead. It's a violent scene. This is going to be an R-rated superhero movie. Daredevil then proceeds to take on Kingpin, which I want the same shot of him kicking both of his knees out from the original one, because that seems like the coolest thing in that movie. So he kicks both of his knees out before sending him to prison. The movie ends in a court case where Matt Murdock sends Wilson Fisk to prison. So you still have the same, I'm not going to do it in the same order that the Daredevil 2003 did. I'm just going to have his origin story at the beginning of his dad being a boxer and fighting. But I'm not going to connect that to Kingpin, because that was very Batman. Jack Nicholson is the guy who killed Bruce Wayne's father or parents type thing. In the Daredevil 2003, they made Kingpin the one who kills Matt Murdock's dad and stuff. So I'm not having that. He discovers him through the guy he's defending. But plot wise, it's a similar plot as the other one, but I have updated actors and a better director, and it's going to be a much darker story. It's going to be pretty violent. because that's what Daredevil is.
Okay.
And
so
all
you're-
the henchmen of Kingpin, it's going to be the Hand.
Okay, so you're changing the tone. You're adding a few more comic book elements, resurrecting Hayden Christensen, and
carving that bullseye into his
Yeah.
forehead.
yeah, you're making it a little grittier. Okay.
Yeah.
I like it. All right, Joe.
All right, so I did a little differently. Let's just say that. My director is John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein. They wrote Superman Homecoming, and they wrote and directed Game Night.
Spider-Man Homecoming?
What'd I
Game
say?
Night. Yeah.
Superman.
And Game Night. Which
Oh,
is
Spider-Man. Yeah, they wrote and directed Game Night, and they wrote Spider-Man Homecoming. My Matt
great. Also
Murdock.
using bones.
Yeah, that too. My Matt Murdock Daredevil is going to be played by Oscar Isaac. My Kingpin is someone I never thought I would have said could play Kingpin until I watched a movie called Brawl in Cell Block 99. My Kingpin is Vince Vaughn.
I thought about that. I'm not gonna lie. I thought about that because he looks like him.
My Elektra is Alicia Vikander from Ex Machina in the new Tomb Raider movie. My Nicholas Nachios is Elias Koteas, who was Casey Jones in the 80s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie, and he was also in Chicago PD for a while. My Bullseye is Michael Kenneth Williams from The Wire and Boardwalk Empire, and he was supposed to be in Solo until he got cut out in reshoots. And then my Foggy Nelson is Seth Rogen. And I will just start by, normal backstory. Young Matt Murdock, blinded by a canister of an oozing chemical, hits him in the face. We get scenes of him as a young kid. He realizes his other senses have been heightened. He can hear conversations blocks away, can smell food being made 4 apartments above his. And again, just like the regular movie, we see his dad rise in the world of fighting, but he's excited because his dad finally gets a title fight, but his dad doesn't seem too happy. And we as an audience realize he's probably being told to throw in the fight. And this he watches his dad's death, and this has an impact on him as he doesn't want to see anyone else die. Like that makes it's similar to Batman, where it's like witnessing his dad die makes him be like, I don't want to see anyone else die either. And so he vows he's not going to kill people. Cut to present day. Matt Murdock is a lawyer in court when a witness says the name Kingpin. And we see multiple cuts of multiple people on the stand or in trial or other thing reference the name Kingpin. And Matt pressures this guy on the identity, but the witness doesn't talk. That night, the witness is visited by Daredevil, who asks if he's Spider-Man. Because I'm connecting this, it's not a rule I'm using because it wasn't a rule, but since it's a Daredevil movie and we're making it today, I'm connecting it to the MCU. And I'm just going to say Kevin Feige says that the Netflix series just didn't happen. So this would take place in the MCU. But the guy asks if he's Spider-Man, and he says he isn't as friendly before hanging the witness out the window. The witness reiterates he has never met Kingpin. Meanwhile, Nicholas Nachios is meeting with Wilson Fisk. He says he isn't the type of businessman he thought he was and wants to terminate their business relationship. Fisk says he doesn't think they can do that and asks if Nicholas has met his associate Benjamin Poindexter. A man steps out of the shadows. Fisk then says, maybe you've heard his other name, Bullseye. We cut away. When Matt shows up to work the next day, his best friend and partner, Foggy Nelson, tells him that there's a girl waiting for him, a hot girl. Matt recognizes his college girlfriend, Elektra Nachios. She says she needs Matt's help. Her father went to speak with Wilson Fisk to end their business agreement and never returned. Matt and Foggy go to Fisk's office under the pretense of looking for new clients to represent. They are quickly turned away, but Fisk steps out because he wants to meet the blind lawyer from Hell's Kitchen he has heard so much about. The three of them talk for a bit in Fisk's office. When they return to their office, Matt tells Foggy and Elektra that Fisk knows something. When he referenced Elektra's father, Fisk's heart rate increased. Since it's a Marvel film, we get a few dumb comedic moments, like Elektra asking to use the bathroom, but Foggy saying she can't because their building's plumbing is backed up and the whole block has plumbing problems. Cut to a flashback scene of Foggy on the toilet when sewage launches out of the toilet. Long story short, Kingpin sends Bullseye after Elektra because he fears she knows too much. Daredevil saves Elektra, but recognizes Bullseye from when he and Foggy went to Fisk's office. God, Fisk is hard to say when you have a lisp, I'll tell you that. Bullseye says he works. Yeah, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. They fight. Daredevil figures out that Fisk and Kingpin are one and the same, and he goes and confronts him in his office. They fight. Kingpin takes Daredevil's mask off and realizes who Daredevil is and that a loud sound would be a weakness. Now they're rolling in the street and he turns on his own car alarm, which activates the nearby car alarms. Matt is disoriented and is getting mauled by Kingpin. He is about to die, and here's the rule I'm using, a twist ending, because out of nowhere we hear a cowabunga. 4 massive turtles in ninja masks appear. Mikey, Raph, and Leo fight Fisk
I
as
know why
Donnie
you
uses
did
his
this.
tech skills to turn off the car alarms. When the car alarms are off, the 4 Ninja Turtles and Daredevil team up on Fisk. Fisk loses the fight, and the cops are called on Kingpin when they find a briefcase of evidence left in front of him after he has been hogtied. Mikey asks Matt if he's nervous Kingpin will say what happened. Kingpin interjects and says it would be humiliating to say he lost to 4 mutant turtles and a blind lawyer. My post-credit scene is Spider-Man approaching Daredevil about being an Avenger, but he says he needs to look out for Hell's Kitchen. I will say I wrote this when I thought Alex was going to be the judge, and that was 100% going to be pandering to him.
Yeah, he
I
loves
will
Ninja
say, though,
Turtles.
that is fantastic. Like, 'cause-
So, yeah, Joe, do you know the connection of Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles and Daredevil?
was that on purpose?
Yeah, 100%. That's why I wrote that in there.
All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Because for anyone
because
who
I knew the
doesn't know,
ooze. I thought I was originally going to write that we see the ooze roll in the sewer, but I thought that would be
Okay.
too obvious.
Yeah.
So, for anyone who doesn't know, the Ninja Turtles was created by 2 dudes in college who based it off the Daredevil comics. So, the Ninja Turtles were just kind of originally somewhat fan fiction, and it was people doing it as Daredevil, but they spun like, okay, in Daredevil, you have the ninjas are the hand, so it's the foot in Ninja Turtles, but you have like them, that's where it's based on. So that's the connection between those two things. Joe, not only did you ruin Daredevil by having weird comedic moments like that, you also threw that movie into the MCU and then brought in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, but it kind of
Also, here's my biggest problem with yours, because I get very singled out on one little thing in movies usually. I refuse to accept that we will have the Daredevil's weakness is loud noise as canon for the MCU, because that was just some bullshit that they put in the 2003 Daredevil. That's not real Daredevil. That's very stupid, and that is not in my movie. And if that's in the MCU, I will riot.
You can riot
Venom
alone.
Reference, because
What'd
that's
you say?
also his weakness. And Riot is the other symbiote.
Exactly. It's all Venom. But yeah, like him being weakness to sound, and also going into like a subway when he lives in Hell's Kitchen and not knowing a subway would like hurt him was like the dumbest thing in that movie. So I don't need that brought into the MCU, because that's the worst thing they did with that character. But I like the story they tried to tell. So I kind of wanted to do mine as like an R-rated one-off Daredevil movie that's very similar. Like, it's different of a movie, but it's like Joker, how that's just like a one-off movie. This is that. I don't want it to be in the MCU, because Daredevil, first of all, you can have a fun Daredevil in the MCU, but it's pointless to put him in there because you have other characters like Hawkeye that can do that stuff. I'd rather have a Daredevil movie that's him on the streets taking care of Hell's Kitchen. So Joe has that ending, but I don't need any Spider-Man connections to this. And if they're going to put Kingpin in the MCU, it needs to be Vincent D'Onofrio.
Or Vince Vaughn. What's one
Yeah.
Vince or another?
Vince Vaughn was actually a really great choice, so I don't have a problem. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio killed it. It's amazing, but they're never going to put that version in the MCU, unfortunately.
But I feel like they could, because they're doing it with. I know it's a little different, but they're doing it with J. Jonah Jameson. Spoiler alert.
Well, yeah.
But since they're bringing him back, I think that opens the door for them to just be like, all right, well, you played him in the show, but we're just going to cast you as Kingpin because you're the right choice. So fingers crossed on that if they make, MCU Daredevil movies.
So this one's pretty tough for me. Joe, do you have anything that you want to say on Johnny's?
Trying to think, not really. It just felt like a lot of the same. It felt like a blend of like the Netflix show and like the 2003 movie. I didn't feel like there was like newness.
And that's what I thought.
But like Daredevil is supposed to be the super dark story. So I like that movie had a darker tone, but I just want to get rid of some of the like shitty early 2000s stuff. And I don't need a scene where Foggy gets basically like the
Okay.
scene in Dumb and Dumber with Foggy in a Daredevil movie.
The only reason I put that in there is because I needed like, I don't want to say like a clue, but like some foreshadowing to the Ninja Turtles. So I needed something like sewer related or something, and that's all I could think of in the moment when I was writing this out.
Also, if you're gonna do new superhero movies, like especially MCU, I would hate for them to give that to the director of Spider-Man: Homecoming, like, or the writers or whoever. Give it to new people, because that's what makes the MCU so good, is that all of their movies are written and directed by like new people, unless they're like Endgame and the movies that come together. But I like that it's like, okay, now Thor, that's going to be Taika Waititi's thing, but we're not going to have Taika Waititi also come in and direct a Daredevil movie. Like, I don't like that the Spider-Man people would come in and do a Daredevil movie, because first of all, I know they interact in the comics, but they're such different characters. I'd rather give it to someone like Lynn Ramsey, who has never done a big movie and is a good storyteller and would kind of be like the directors that they bring in, for the MCU movies.
But like right before the whole James Gunn like Twitter controversy and everything, they were like basically had already announced he's going to be in charge of everything like Marvel, like space, like anything in space with Marvel. He's going to be in charge.
And to be fair, the Russo brothers directed 2 Captain America movies before doing, the Avengers.
Well, like, but what I mean is like, but then you didn't also just give the Russo brothers Spider-Man. Like, you have them doing Captain America, and then they were the ones to take over the whole big thing. I'm fine with one director and one like team of writers or whatever sticking with one character and then doing team up movies. But I feel like it's a cool thing in the MCU when every character is kind of started by its own person, and like it doesn't always stick. But like, I like that thing in the MCU that they do that, because not only does it give more opportunity to like these smaller directors, it also gives every character more of their own character and style. So, and I don't want any bit of tone of Spider-Man: Homecoming in a Daredevil movie. Like, that just does not belong.
So here are my thoughts on this is with yours, Johnny, I have a problem with that. We already saw the best version of a gritty Daredevil in the Netflix show.
But we didn't.
So we did. We saw such a great version of it. And this is kind of just a retelling of the 2003 movie. And the problem with Joe's is I don't think that tone or directors really fit. But I really do like your cast, and I like the connections. I actually did like the Ninja Turtles twist. That was pretty fun. So if you're going to make a fun Daredevil movie, I think that's the way to do it. But what I think I'm going to do here, if the 2 hosts of this show is okay, is I'm going to set a precedent and call this one a tie to bring it down to the last one, because I really don't know who to pick there, and it's just going to be a toss-up. And I don't want to set this up to where that chooses the winner.
All right, now we have to have a winner, because we won't have a tie and have to figure out what kind of weird tiebreaker.
Are we tied right now? Isn't it 4-4? And then
so it's 4-4, and we got 1 left. So whoever wins Wild Wild West will win.
Because
you
have to pick a winner there.
Right. So if I had given this to someone, it would have just been a coin flip, honestly. So then it would have been, either playing for a tie or the other person playing for a win.
All right. So whoever wins Wild Wild West gets both points and wins 6-4. It'll be like our Spaceballs thing, how we waited on that, and then I awarded it to you later.
Yeah. There you go. We'll do that, because I don't know if you have a tiebreaker set up or not. I mean, we can set one up going forward.
You would basically tell us to do a movie, and we would just like do it real quick. You would give us a movie and improv.
Yeah, and I was thinking of that too, but honestly, I was like, I don't know who I would give this to. So I was going to see if you guys were okay with that. Otherwise, I can pick a winner, but it would be a coin flip.
No, I'm okay if we're going into Wild Wild West determines the winner.
Okay. Let's do it.
But then you just have to pick someone out of that. You can't.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to do the same thing for sure. You guys, one of you guys. Have to me
okay,
over.
you pick who goes first, then, Bobby.
All right. So, Johnny, you went first last time. I'm going to give this to Joe.
All right. Now I got to remember what the hell happens in Wild Wild West.
There's a giant spider.
All you need to know it. Will Smith
so
is James West, and he teams up with this dude Artemis, and they are in the Old West to stop this like evil doctor, and there's weird technology in it, and then at the end, Kenneth Branagh has a giant spider toy that comes out and attacks.
Like steampunk in the Old West.
And for some reason, Kevin Kline is also Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, he plays 2 people.
Yeah.
All right.
Very wild.
All right. So my director is going to be Travis Knight of Bumblebee and Kubo and the Two Strings. My Jim West, I'm going to have Mahershala Ali replace Will Smith. My Artemis Gordon, I'm going to have Timothy Olyphant of Justified, Deadwood, and Mandalorian fame replace Kevin Kline. My President Grant is going to be played by Brad Pitt. My Dr. Lovelace.
I think I just figured out your rule. Wait, your last rule, you're making this, I don't want to ruin your reveal, but you're making this a space movie?
Please don't.
Yes. That was my pick for this. That was my first thought for this movie is I would put this in space.
All right. So my Dr. Lovelace, replacing Kenneth Branagh, I'm going to have Warwick Davis, who was in like a bunch of Star Wars movies and he was Professor Flitwick in the Harry Potter movies, and he's a dwarf. And I made it a dwarf because in the original show, Dr. Lovelace wasn't a paraplegic, he was a dwarf. So I just decided to go back to that. And then my Rita Escobar is Zoe Saldana. And now my pitch. I'm taking the movie and changing the frontier of the West and changing it to the final frontier. That's right. The rule I'm using is setting it in space, specifically Mars. I'm taking the Western action sci-fi comedy and turning it into a Western action sci-fi drama. The film's aesthetic is very similar to the Old West, with characters wearing cowboy hats to block out the sun in the thin atmosphere, and people are going to be covered head to toe for the same reason, and some even wear bandanas over their face to keep the sand out of their mouth and nose. And both heroes and villains carry photon pistols. Now for the plot. At some point in the future, a human colony on Mars decided they didn't want to be ruled by those on Earth, and they went to war for their own autonomous independence. 4 years after the war, Martian Army captain turned bounty hunter Jim West and his friend and local deputy Artemis Gordon are chasing down a criminal when they are contacted by Martian President Grant. He says that 2 scientists have gone missing and he needs their help in finding them. The 2 scientists are botanists and have been crucial in helping Mars be sustainable without the use of Earth's resources. West and Gordon go to the scientist's last known location and find a clue that leads to former Governor Lovelace, the leader of the Martian colony before the war. Lovelace is known around the solar system as a genius inventor as well. The 2 men follow a clue and infiltrate a party at Lovelace's mansion. They are approached by Rita Escobar, who asks for their help in finding her parents, the 2 missing scientists. At the party, Lovelace unveils his new weapon, a photon tank that can level a small city in one blast. Lovelace says it's to help defend from those on Earth. Later during the party, West, Gordon, and Escobar overhear Lovelace telling a small group of people he plans on using the tank to take back control of Mars, and that he plans on discreetly transporting the tank to the capital tonight. They also overhear that Lovelace had Escobar's parents killed to force Mars to be dependent on Earth again so people would lose faith in President Grant. Eventually, there's a big chase scene as they try to follow what I'm calling a photon train with a tank, and they're on what look like Star Wars speeder bikes. There's a big shootout. Lovelace takes the tank, breaks out of the train. He kidnaps Rita Escobar, and the Artemis and West are forced to ride the train to the capital and hope that the tank hasn't completely destroyed the city by the time they arrive. When they reach the capital, Lovelace has kidnapped President Grant, and his only demand is to be reinstated as the leader of Mars. Grant says he would rather die than see Lovelace rule Mars, and West and Gordon realize they need a distraction so Rita can be rescued. West wraps a bandana around his face as a disguise and wanders on stage pretending to be drunk. He fights Lovelace's guards drunken master style as Gordon releases Grant and Rita. Lovelace realizes what's going on and gets in his tank. It's a Mexican standoff. And basically how I would have designed the tank is there's like no top to it. Is like you can still see Lovelace in the tank. And there's a Mexican standoff, Gordon and West with their photon pistols and Lovelace in his tank. Lovelace is about to fire, but the tank powers down. Grant shot out the power source of the cannon. West, Gordon, and Rita are shocked, but Grant says, I was a military general. And Lovelace is arrested. Grant hires West and Gordon as the first marshals, Martials. It's a pun because, again, when I wrote this, I thought Alex was judging and he's a lover of puns. Both men try to hit on Rita, but she confesses that she is married and she is married and her husband should return from Earth within a week. The movie ends with Gordon and West riding off into the sunset on their new speeders. And that's my pitch for Wild Wild West set on Mars.
Right. So quick side note here. I was going over this with my wife, Jen, before this, and I was saying how there's a few movies I thought the rule was obvious. And she goes, yeah, Wild Wild West has to be in space, right? And that's exactly what I would have done too.
Wild West.
Okay, well, I thought this had a very obvious rule. And for anyone...
Yeah, process of elimination, I do like your rule.
My rule is going to include Jay and Silent Bob into this Wild Wild West movie, because the reason that movie even is talked about today is because of Kevin Smith. So why not let him direct the remake of it? So he's directing it. We got my James West, originally Will Smith, is going to be O'Shea Jackson Jr. from Straight Outta Compton and Ingrid Goes West, a.k.a. Ice Cube's son. And Joe cast him in another movie. We had some crossovers for a lot of these people. My Artemis Gordon, originally Kevin Kline, is going to be Will Forte, who's great in Nebraska and a bunch of TV shows, Last Man on Earth. My Dr. Loveless, originally Kenneth Branagh, doing an insane villain performance. So I need someone who has experience being an insane villain, and that will be Eddie Redmayne from Jupiter Ascending, basically playing the same character.
He's going to whisper,
the whisper talk. And it sounds a lot like Voldemort, and then he yells randomly. Yeah. So it's going to be that, but it's going to be a play on that. So he's going to be doing that character, but like self-referential.
Your version of that sounded like Dumbledore, by the way, from the first two Harry Potter movies.
Yeah, I do get mistaken for Dumbledore a lot. And my producer of this movie is John Peters. Not sure if he's even alive still. Okay,
he just got divorced from Pamela Anderson.
Oh, wow.
They were married for like 5 days, and then they got divorced.
I thought he was married to Cher. Or was he just her hairdresser? I don't remember. Anyway.
Yeah.
So the movie starts with Jay and Silent Bob discovering a giant blunt called the Time Warp. They hit the blunt and are transported to the world of Wild Wild West. They land on the train and interact with our two lead characters. They go through the world trying to survive as action basically all happens around them, but they are teamed up with the two heroes. Dr. Loveless creates a giant mechanical spider to defeat James West and Artemis. The climax of the movie is the giant spider about to kill the heroes when Silent Bob steps in to give one of his famous monologues. He tells the spider how he once met a producer that insisted on a giant spider being the climax of a superhero film, but he convinced the producer it was a very, very bad idea. And the spider listens to the wise words of Silent Bob and walks away into the sunset. The heroes are saved, and Jay and Silent Bob are teleported back to their current timeline. And Ice Cube and his son are both doing the new Wild Wild West song. So that's basically my movie. It's going to be a very campy Jay and Silent Bob movie and finally have some closure on the giant spider, which anyone who has no idea what we're talking about, look up Kevin Smith, John Peters story. Pretty much all people need to know.
So question on that. So are Jay and Silent Bob the lead, or are there two main heroes of the story the lead? Who's kind of running the story?
I would say it's Jay and Silent Bob. It's from their perspective. So they're put in, and then it's like Jay and Silent Bob reboot kind of type thing where it's their perspective, but they are teamed up with the main heroes, and the movie plays out with them kind of following around, trying to get back to their reality. So they're hiding behind things while, the heroes are fighting. And then Silent Bob kind of steps in from his hiding spot to talk to the spider at the end of the movie.
And then for Joe, because I got the tone that Johnny's going for, what kind of tone is yours? More like an MCU kind of tone, more serious, more comedy?
I would say if I could compare it, I would say if I could compare it to another movie, I would compare it to something like the first Kingsman movie, where it's like there's like dramatic moments and like more action. There's like comedic elements for sure, but it's not like the first Wild Wild West, which was like a straight up just more comedy than action.
Yeah.
But Joe, your movie to me sounds like like the original shitty Dune and like the bad remake of Total Recall and like the shitty John Carter movie. Like that's what your movie sounds like. Like it's just like a boring space movie that no one needs to see. Like I feel like I just saw your shitty movie with Alita Battle Angel. Like very different, but like that is the tone I got. Like, oh, more of a fun action movie, but it's futuristic, it's in space. That movie was fucking terrible, and that is what your movie sounded like to me. I'd rather see Kevin Smith interact with a giant mechanical spider. Really, the sole.
You're the only one who thinks that. I think that your movie doesn't even sound like a Wild Wild West movie. Your movie sounds like a recreation of the John Peters story.
Yeah, so pretty much.
So here's my thoughts on this, because Joe's. I mean, like I said, my rule, if I were looking at this list, would be to put it in space. But I did find your plot to kind of be a little bland, a little boring. It's a little. I thought it would be fun, but it was more comparable to some other movies I've seen. With yours, Johnny, though, the thing is, I love the Jay and Silent Bob thing. I would have put them as the two leads from the original movie. If it,
but that's not how Jay and Silent Bob work.
Yeah, I know, but the only other problem is I think that story, as funny as it is, that joke to be the third act big, the climax of the movie is a little too inside baseball. I think there are going to be people that love that, and I think movie industry critics that have heard that story would actually really love that, and the general audience would be like, "What? Where did this come from?"
This is also a Kevin Smith movie, so there is no general audience seeing this. It's only Kevin Smith fans. So anyone who's seeing this movie knows that story because they all listen to Kevin Smith. Like no one goes to see like the Jay and Silent Bob movies anymore other than Kevin Smith fans. So like all of his jokes are inside baseball. If you saw the reboot, he has Ben Affleck in it, and his whole scene is just referencing Batman v Superman.
Right.
Like, and the everything behind the scenes on that movie.
Yeah. The only problem with that is because that's his tone and that's what he does. Most of his movies are made for $5 million, something like that. And I feel like this movie with a giant spider still in it, CGI spider, or
that'd be the whole budget.
Would make up too much.
Can I counter though? If only Kevin Smith fans are seeing it, and then it's a movie where Jay and Silent Bob are going back to the Old West, like everyone's like waiting for that joke. Like when that joke and that whole third act happens, you're not going to be like mind blown.
Everyone's waiting for that joke because it's the best joke, but it's not the only joke. Like it's a Kevin Smith movie. You're still going to have good dialogue and funny. I like my cast a lot in terms of like what they can do in a comedy.
Yeah. And
their interactions, you still have some of the funny stuff, but you get rid of like Wild Wild West is like an unwatchably bad movie. So I would just basically take the ridiculousness of that and put in characters that can break the fourth wall into that story. So it would be these like O'Shea Jackson and Will Forte would have like funny dialogue back and forth. But it would be like the rest of the movie, everything from Jay and Silent Bob would be breaking the fourth wall and being like, what is happening? Like, how is this happening? And they would comment on how crazy the world is and how crazy Eddie Redmayne's performance is.
So that movie, to me, I think I might like that movie. I just feel like that is such a niche movie.
It's a Kevin Smith movie. It's a niche movie.
Mm-hmm. But looking back at my notes, because again, I didn't find the pitch as far as Joe's to be super interesting, but Mahershala Ali, Timothy Olyphant, Brad Pitt, and Warwick Davis with Travis Knight. Because anything Travis Knight's done, even if the story might sound bland, the story of Bumblebee is E.T., it's any movie in that vein. And it has a lot of heart and is really interesting. So I feel like he could direct that and give that movie the heart that it needs. So because I think, Johnny, you want
Brad Pitt in space. Bad idea.
Yeah,
Ad Astra was straight trash.
Yeah, it's a boring movie, but that's okay. I mean, look, Brad Pitt usually is great. But regardless, I think Joe pitched a movie that more people would go see. I think it could be fun. I think it could have a lot of heart. And I think Johnny's is just a little bit too niche for his own good. So I'm going with Joe. He gets the win.
Yeah.
It's bullshit. I disagree.
All right.
So Joe gets the comeback because he was down by at least 2.
Whew.
Yeah, I went easy on him.
Yeah, it was 4-2 at one point.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joe definitely wrote out longer pitches than I did.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
But I thought that kind of hurt some of his movies.
It did.
I
It
feel like
did
some of yours
definitely
would be
hurt some.
stronger if you just had like, hey, it's pretty similar to the original one. Like, I feel like we did the test episode, and then Joe was like, all right, I need to put a lot of work into my pitches. And like some
I
of
went
them
from I wrote all of my. Yeah, like Goonies was the only one, but I went from I wrote all of my pitches in like an hour to like I spent an hour on each of my pitches.
Yeah, to be honest, as a judge, I kind of took the cliff notes of yours as I realized that it was going to be either really similar or really different. I just kind of took your tone and took your general concepts.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be like a paragraph or two next time.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, I feel like that. And then, damn, we had some tough rules to make pitches. I like how all of ours came together. Like even the like goofy ones, like my Tim Burton Warrior movie. But like some of these, I was just like, what the hell do I do?
Yeah, this
like
was,
so. What's
there's
some.
Go ahead. Sorry.
What I found is like the newer movies are a lot harder to do because it's like, especially if it's good, it's like the cast. It's like, well, I don't really want to change the cast, but I guess I have to, so I'll go with and do something completely different. And it's a weird balancing act of finding the right rule for the right movie. Because if you don't have the right rule for the right movie, you're just dead in the water. Like Tim Burton's Warrior, like that was like never gonna win unless I somehow picked like an even worse rule for that movie.
Yeah,
but I was also planning maybe Alex would find that funny and pick it. So
I found it funny, but
Bobby found it funny, but he took it more seriously. And I don't know, like some of it, you kind of either got to go for the serious movie or the joke to me. Like, I felt like for mine, I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to make mine more of like a comedy or a comedic thing to kind of win on that. But then like, it's tough when you do that. And then the other person pitches a completely serious movie like Warrior. Like I pitched like the goofiest thing ever. And then Joe was like, I have this real serious like drama.
It kind of worked out.
Warrior was tough. We need to get rid of movies that are like good and recent. Cause like that was too tough. You can't update anything. So it's just like recasting and sports movies too are tough in general.
But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, that was fun. You guys put on a good show.
Also, we've done 20 movies now, Joe, and have not connected the same rule to any of these movies yet. So one day we'll have the same at least one rule connect with the same movie, and it'll be a pitch based on that. But again, we went 10 movies, 10 rules, not one pairing.
But yeah, I just want to apologize to anyone watching or listening to this for any technical difficulties. You know, we're still trying to figure this out. You know, if you're watching or listening, like, subscribe, share. Does anyone else have anything they want to say before we?
No, not really. This was fun.
All right. Well, a lot of fun. Glad I could join you guys. And
thanks, Bobby, for
I think it'll be
helping judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
because Joe and I wouldn't have conceded on half of these.
No. Yeah, I think next week it's going to be me judging, and then Bobby and Johnny versus each other.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Right. So yeah, I'm
brothers against each other here.
Yeah, I'm Joe Fricky.
I'm Johnny Dupe.
I'm Bobby Mitchell.
All right, guys. Thanks for listening, watching.